Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unpack the incredible story behind a single document that guides the lives of 1.4 billion people, the Constitution of India. Now, this isn't just some dry legal rulebook. It's the actual blueprint for a new nation, the codification of a dream.
Okay, let's just dive right in with a number that gives you a sense of the sheer scale we're dealing with here. Roughly 470 articles. That makes it the longest written constitution of any country on Earth. It's not just a document, it's a genuine epic, designed from the ground up to handle the complexities of a massively diverse nation.
And that story, well, it begins right at the birth of the nation. See, after 200 years of colonial rule, an independent India needed a lot more than just a flag and an anthem. It needed a birth certificate, a foundational document that would declare to the world, and more importantly to its own people, what kind of country it was going to be.
This timeline really highlights what a sprint of nation-building this was. Independence in 1947 kicks off almost 3 years of intense debate and deliberation. The Constituent Assembly finally adopts the final draft in November 1949, and then, on January 26, 1950, it comes into full effect. That's the day India truly became a republic.
So, who was behind this mammoth task? A group called the Constituent Assembly, and their symbol was the elephant, which is pretty fitting, right? It really represents the sheer size and weight of their work. You had brilliant minds like Sir B.N. Rao, who prepared the original draft. And, so importantly, its membership included 15 women, a truly remarkable step towards inclusivity for that time, making sure that diverse voices were baked into the nation's founding.
But before we get into the nuts and bolts of how the government works, we have to look at the Constitution's philosophical heart. You know, if all those articles are the body, then the preamble, well, that's its soul.
The preamble isn't just some fancy introduction. Think of it as the nation's mission statement. In just a few powerful lines, it lays out the fundamental values and the big picture objectives that the entire Constitution is built to achieve. It is the promise of India distilled.
So what is that promise? First up, justice. And we're not just talking about legal justice in a courtroom. We're talking social, economic, and political justice, a direct commitment to start dismantling centuries of inequality. Next, liberty, the freedom to think what you want, say what you want, and believe what you want. It's the essential guarantee for every single individual in a modern democracy. Then you have equality. This was a radical idea at the time, that all citizens have equal status and equal opportunity. It was a direct challenge to the rigid social hierarchies that had defined so much of the past. And finally, fraternity. It's a call for a common brotherhood, a sense of belonging that binds all Indians together, making sure to uphold the dignity of the individual and the unity of the entire nation.
Okay, so with those incredible principles as the foundation, how did the Constitution actually build the engine of government? Let's take a look at how the whole system works.
The core design is a classic for a reason, the separation of powers. You've got the legislature, which makes the laws, the executive, which puts those laws into action, and the judiciary, which interprets the laws. The goal here is simple but absolutely crucial, to create a system of checks and balances so no one branch can get too powerful. And sitting at the very top of that judicial pillar is the Supreme Court. Its most important job isn't just settling disputes, it's to be the ultimate guardian of the Constitution. It has the power to strike down any law or any government action that violates the rules laid out in that founding document.
And this brings us to one of the most powerful ideas in the entire document, a set of direct promises that the state makes to each and every citizen, promises that basically act as a shield against its own power.
So what is this big promise? Well, the Constitution answers with a set of rights that are so essential, so fundamental, that they're woven right into the fabric of the nation to protect people from the government overreaching.
These 6 fundamental rights are really the bedrock of Indian democracy. They guarantee things like the right to equality, freedom of speech and expression, and the right against exploitation. And here's the crucial part. These are not just ideals on paper. They are legally enforceable rights that you can actually take the government to court over if they're violated.
And you have to hear this. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the Constitution's chief architect, he called one particular right the very soul of the Constitution. He was talking about Article 32, the right to constitutional remedies. So why was it so important to him? Because this is the article that gives you the power to go to court to enforce all your other rights. He knew that a right without a remedy is no right at all.
But you know, maybe the greatest piece of wisdom from the framers was knowing that they couldn't predict the future. They knew India would change,
And so they designed a constitution that could change with it. Not some static relic, but a living, breathing document.
And you can literally see that evolution just by looking at the numbers. It went from 395 articles in 1949 to around 470 today. It's been amended over 100 times in 70-something years, constantly adapting to new challenges and the changing dreams of its people. But that raises a big question, right? How do you change without losing your soul? The Supreme Court came up with a brilliant safeguard for this called the Basic Structure Doctrine. It's a ruling that says, look, Parliament can amend the Constitution, but it cannot destroy its fundamental identity. Core pillars like democracy, the rule of law, and individual freedoms, those are off limits.
Which leaves us with this final, powerful question. The story of the Indian Constitution is one of incredible foresight and amazing resilience. But its greatest test is always right now, in the present. The constant challenge is making sure that this 75-year-old text isn't just a historical document, but that it remains a vibrant, living promise for the future of 1.4 billion people.